I remember in ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT was amazing.
Yeah.
I have a word, right? Yeah. And I'd be like, hey, give me a sophisticated synonyms of this word.
Yeah.
And it gave me a list of 20, and I read through, I'm like, oh, this is a good one.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And I just swap those words in constantly.
Yeah,
but I'd be like, hey, can you rewrite this, but like more sophisticated?
Yeah.
Right?
And for the audience, Aryan is not going, can you write this for me?
No.
He is using ChatGPT to speed up the time to get the word that he wanted.
Yeah.
Not what ChatGPT wanted, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what the English essay is about.
Yeah.
English essay is to demonstrate your knowledge and your passion and your understanding of the text.
Yeah.
Welcome back everyone to another episode of After Class Podcast. Today we have Aryan. He's a pro-ed graduate from 2024. Balcombe Hills High School, got ATAR of 99.95, and this year is studying medicine at USYD, right? Well, technically it's undergrad, and medicine's postgrad. We're gonna pick his brain today and get to see what it kind of takes to get to like a stature of a 99.95 situation. And also kind of like some of the other things that students don't really realize, that it's not just about studying harder, it's not just about being good at maths or whatnot, right? But there's a lot of other things that go into it. Yeah. And also the ups and downs, the emotional roller coaster sometimes as well, because just to get into medicine, it's not really just studying hard, right? There's other things as well. And obviously you went through some downs there and some, you know what I mean, questionable times. But ultimately getting that 0.95 and acing the interviews in the USYD, getting you the opportunity, all worked out in the end, right? We'll start off with kind of like your background as a student from like the early years, maybe even like primary to high school, right? How would you describe yourself as a student compared to the general kids that you hang out with when you were in primary, when you were in high school? Just to give the audience a little bit of a background, because let's say, for example, you are a born genius, right? A lot of the stuff then the audience will have to really think about, you know, how they can apply some of it into their kind of lifestyle, right? Yeah. So maybe start with that, How would you describe yourself as a student?
So, I mean, obviously with like having immigrant parents, you know, obviously I had to be like study focused. So as a kid, obviously I was studying a bit more than like other people, but I was never exceptional, especially in high school. Well, first of all, in primary school, OC, I didn't even make anything, right?
Wow, okay.
Like, a bunch of people beat me, all my friends beat me. Right. I was like quite low. So after that, I locked in for selective, of course, and selective, thank God, worked out. I got into Balcombe Hills. But I noticed that year 7 to 10 especially, I was falling behind very progressively. Okay. Right? Especially I think in year 8 or year 9, I was in the bottom maths class. Okay. Like completely. Wow. Right? Never got an A in English. Wow. Right? Once, I think. Okay. Right? So I wasn't exceptional at all. Right? I think I was quite an average kid, sometimes even below average. But yeah, compared to other people, I was still like focusing on my studies. It's not that I was like completely slacking off as well. But yeah, I don't think until year 11 I was like exceptional at all. Maybe like end of year 10.
Why do you feel like when you got into Balcombe Hills in year 7, during that kind of like 7 to 9/10 kind of era, what would you say was the reason for why you felt like you were maybe average, maybe even potentially below average in some subjects, right? Yeah. What would you credit that to?
Yeah, definitely it was a lot of things, right? First of all, with like Balcombe Hills is very like study oriented. There's obviously exceptional kids in our grade, right? And I think the main thing is I had no motivation to study. I had like no reason for studying other than, you know, just trying to like make my parents happy. Yeah. And second thing, I didn't have good guidance with tutors, right? I've been to so many tutoring places, right? And none of the tutors really gave me that sort of like guidance or that like advice to help me out. And also I had, every time I did bad, I'd feel worse about myself. And then my marks would drop, and it was like kind of a cycle. Yeah. And I just accepted that, you know what, I'm like an average kid.
And how was that like in terms of the stigma at school? Were you then trying to like hang out with people that was studying harder and trying to learn from them? Or were you kind of like in a little bit of a sulk group and everyone's just kind of like down mood and we would just kind of relate in terms of that?
Well, the group I was in, right, there were a few kids that were like quite good, right? Okay. They would always stand out. They would always be the kids like, oh, you're so smart, you know what I mean? Okay. It's like, screw you, you know, after marks come out. Yeah. But none of them were like very like work focused as well. Okay. I think we all just kind of accepted that, you know, like we're not like too like invested in like studies. Okay. We just kind of just had fun, whatever. Yeah. Yeah. It was nothing like crazy.
Okay. Yeah. What was the definition of having fun in those days, in year 7 to 9?
I'm not gonna lie, in every single class. Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, up till year 12, I played games. Okay. Computer games in every single class. Yeah. And you know, just like handball at lunch or recess, right? Go home, watch YouTube. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely nothing. Don't study until like maybe like 2-3 days before the exams.
Okay. If you were to kind of group and say, why are you able to do that? I know doing that ultimately you didn't have the drive, the motivation, the guidance, and your performance was average, below average, but you were still in Bockham Hills. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you still had a skill set that was able to allow you to last minute study, right?
Yeah.
What do you accredit that to?
I think I say I don't have motivation to study, right? But I think I have enough that I do still want to like impress my parents. I still want to have good marks, you know, right? So like those 3 days before, like I genuinely like I lock in. I drop everything. I don't troll anymore, and I study for those 3 days. But obviously 3 days isn't enough. I don't think it was 3 days. Sometimes it'd be like 2, maybe the day before, but that it's just not enough to like get to that threshold. Like past that threshold.
Okay. How was your parents' kind of role in that situation and during those kind of troll years, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think they definitely think I worked more than I actually did. And I told them I worked more than I actually did. And sometimes when the really bad exam marks came out, I'd have to hide it a little bit. You know, don't show it. But couldn't escape reports. They were emailed straight to my parents. And they'd always get mad at me. They're like, oh, why are you getting a B in English? You know? I'm like, wait, what? They don't actually know that I was in the bottom maths class. I didn't tell them. I said that it was all like, everyone was mixed. But like, our class average was always like 20 below the school average. So I think I picked up that I was on the bottom. But yeah. No, they were definitely pushing me once reports came out. They were like, they were praying that I pulled myself together.
But at the same time, you know, it seems to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think your parents still gave you a lot of leeway, allowed you to make a lot of decisions yourself, right? Because, you know, there's some parents, they're so hands-on, they involved in every single decision process, making process of the student. They'll drive them to tutoring, they'll pick them up, they'll check their work, they'll make sure their homework is done. They might even mark their homework. Do you know what I'm saying? There's some parents that are super invested. Your parents didn't sound like that. They were just got a little bit mad because like the final result came out and they're like, oh, you should be doing better. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, they definitely gave me a lot of leeway. And I'm definitely thankful for that because I feel like if they didn't and they were really like pressured and like focused on me, like in on me and like how I was doing all the time, I think I'd like develop a really bad relationship with studying in general. Right, which I feel like a lot of people have faced. Right.
If I was to ask you, right, what was the moment that you went from a troll to taking action, to taking the initiative to kind of change that kind of thinking process, change those habits? Where would you pinpoint that moment?
This isn't like propaganda or anything, but when I joined Daniel's class in Pro Ed, like generally I went with Terrence and I joined Daniel's class, and like for the first time I was like, wait, this is actually like nice, you know? I was like, there was the first like time, like, because I went to a lot of tutoring centers before, right? A lot of the tutors just kind of like read off the board. Like when I got taught by Daniel, I was like, wow, this like actually understands stuff, you know what I mean? Like I'm actually getting the ideas. Right? And I was like, wait, I might not be just like stupid, you know what I mean? Right? Like things are actually like clicking. And I was like, after that, I was like, you know what, I'll self-focus more. I put a lot of effort into like tutoring. Right.
Why do you feel like the other tutoring places weren't able to get you there and you thought it was like, you know what I mean? It's just tutoring it seems to me like tutoring is just something that people did. Like kids in your school did. And it's like, well, if I don't go, I'm missing out because everyone's going. But now that you are going, there's nothing special. But then suddenly when you came to Pro Ed and you were in Daniel's class, what was it in terms of the comparison that was able to motivate you more?
I think for a lot of tutoring centers, right, it was, I've been to quite a few, you know, as well, right? It's just like some guy at the front reading off a board, and like everyone just dead silent in a corner, right? Like in a like circle around him, just listening. And I never like did well in those environments, right? I think I can give a lot to like the environment. For the first time I went to a tutoring center and it was actually like fun, right? People were actually like laughing, joking around. I had like my best friend next to me, you know, we were always talking as well in class, having fun. And it was the first time I actually had fun at tutoring. You know what I mean? And then that actually made me want to learn and come back and listen and put effort. And the second thing as well is Daniel actually like paid attention to me, like specifically, sometimes during the classes, right? And that's also something I feel like a lot of tutoring centers don't do.
And when were you started to suddenly feel like it kind of started to change? You know what I mean? Like the marks started getting better, you started building confidence. How long did it take before that exam was quite drastically different, or the work that you put in, right? Now that you were motivated, not just because you had to do the work, but more so like, oh, I'm having fun with my friend as well, and we're kind of like holding each other accountable, right? Like how long do you reckon it took before, with that changed mindset, before you started to see results?
So I joined term 4, year 10, right? And then it was just a slow build-up and slow progression all the way to year 11, term 1. I don't think in the finals, year 10 was that good, right? It was too soon. And I think when year 11, term 1 hit, right, especially with like knowing that I have to focus now as prelims, that's when the marks started changing.
So you are telling me
Yeah.
up until year 10,
Yeah.
you were just like mediocre, below average.
Yeah, completely.
Okay.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
above average in sometimes. Maybe it wasn't
Okay.
that bad, but
Okay.
it was definitely nothing crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then like first assessment, year 11,
Yeah.
marks just shot up.
Yeah.
How did that make you feel? How did that kind of change your perspective in this whole kind of thing? Because before, you kind of like really didn't care, right?
yeah.
But you cared in a way because you didn't want to disappoint your parents in a way.
Yeah.
But then suddenly you had this change because of the environment that you were in, the community part aspect of it, and also like someone that was actually invested in kind of like making sure that you can reach your potential in a way, right? How did you feel after that first assessment and you kind of like going way past the expectation that you had on yourself? And also, what was the noise around you? What would people say?
Yeah, I think people definitely noticed and made fun of me because in school, I was an absolute troll. Even in year 12, school never worked for me as like an environment. I was just playing games all the time. But yeah, people were definitely shocked. They were like, yeah, since when? Since when was I like this? But I think the most important thing I got from that is like, I started being like, not obsessing, but I started craving academic validation a lot, right? And also like when I joined Pro Ed, I was getting like a lot of academic validation with like, you know, weekly quizzes and stuff. Like I'd put a lot of effort. And like if I like came first or like top 3 or something, I was like, oh damn, I did good. And I think what that did is it started building momentum for me. To like progress through the years. Which was fueled by like academic progression of like keep trying to push my like marks past what they are now. Like keep improving myself.
Right.
Yeah.
So like that's actually a thing, right? Like you feel like because you did well, you're more incentivized to do more work, and that more work paid off to get a better marks. And better marks means you want to work even harder. And it was just kind of like a ball that was like, you know what I mean? Like okay, cool. Obviously, it might have still been some time before eventually you felt like, hey, I'm actually one of the smartest kids in the school. Or maybe you didn't feel that way because you were locked in and you weren't paying attention. But other people are like, hey, Aryan's one of the smartest kids. Let's go and ask him questions. Let's go be friends with him or hang out with him or whatever. Well, let's see what he's doing. When did you start noticing like there was that kind of, you know what I mean, stigma around?
I think it built up very slowly, right? Maybe some of the people closer to me maybe started. But I think end of year 11, when I like I did well overall, right, for all my subjects, and like people started like noticing and stuff. I think end of year 11 is when it started. Also because people wanted a lot of advice going into year 12 as well. So yeah, definitely end of year 11. A lot of people started like asking for like tips and stuff.
Because remember how we started our 4 class earlier? It was Kelly, it was Terrence, and it was yourself, right? I think you guys started like term 2 of year 11. We started like doing 4 in it. We didn't do like hardcore, but we kind of paced ourselves. But I remember at that time, Daniel was still like, hey, the reason why we even started the class in the first place was like, I think Aryan, he's capable of learning more. He's capable of going ahead. Because a lot of times you're not going to recommend, you know what I mean, doing more tutoring for someone that doesn't have the potential, that someone that hasn't bought into the program, that someone doesn't have the confidence to do it, isn't it? Like, we don't want to scare people away. We don't want to burn them out, right? So for Daniel to kind of tell me, be like, hey, I think, you know, what's going to be really good for Terrence and Aryan, and I think later on you guys brought on Kelly, right? Was like genuinely he felt that you could do more. Does that make sense, right? And that goes back to kind of like Daniel's investment in you guys, because he's like, just doing 3 in is too easy. Just doing 3 in it, I feel like they're a little bit too relaxed. They're a little bit too, they're not challenged enough. You know what I mean? Which is quite a contradiction to how you experienced just even a couple of terms before that, right? Because term 2, year 11, end of year 10, when you first joined, that was only two and a bit terms, right? So it was like within the span of 2 terms, you were able, with the right mindset, with the right support, with the right environment, you'll be able to get to a point where your teacher was like, I think you can handle more. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And he was like, oh, Aryan's smart. And my understanding was always that you were just like some smart kid. Doesn't make sense? That you just like locked in and you wanted to work hard and you wanted to get ahead of the competition. Not knowing this, what you just told me today was you guys were just more, only very recently, isn't it? Kind of started to kind of build that momentum. But there was something that I observed by teaching you all that time, right? That learning was very easy for you. Does that make sense? And what do you feel like your opinion is in terms of that comment?
I think during that time is when I started developing the mindset that like I need to like know absolutely everything. And also came from a genuine enjoyment of studying, right? I feel like a lot of people, it's like a chore, you know, you got to go home to the tutoring.
Yeah.
I found genuine joy, like not joy, but I was very, I enjoyed the process of studying, right?
Yeah.
I'd like go home, like run through, listen to music, doing my maths homework,
Yeah.
right? It was like fun, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Especially because I was actually understanding the concept. And I think during that time I developed the mindset that any concept that I didn't understand or any gap that I thought I had needed to be filled. Like I needed to have a complete 100% understanding of absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I like live by that rule because like I'd feel uncomfortable knowing that there's like this one part that I don't understand.
Yeah.
And what if it comes up? You know, what if it happens?
Because a lot of students are like that. They're like, when times get tough, they're like, oh, I don't think this is going to be in the test anyway, so let's just skip over it, right? But in terms of your perspective, you're like, I have to get into nitty-gritty details of everything.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that actually comes from the fact that I actually had time. Because I think if I started for in year 12, it would be a completely different story. I would be the sort of person being like, oh, you know, that's probably not going to come up. Because I don't have the luxury of time to actually learn it properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had a whole year. And I was like, you know, I have the time to properly, like, truly understand all these concepts. I'm going to use the time.
Yeah, I've been saying this all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like when kids don't understand their identity in terms of how they react to information, how they learn information, how they absorb information, the advice I always give to them is you need to start earlier. Because what happens in the school exam is they don't pace it well. Right?
Yeah.
They waste a lot of time on some of the easier topics at the beginning, and then they realize they don't have enough time and start rushing.
Yeah.
And then once they rush it, they give you 2 weeks to study for that content. Let's be honest, like, who says that 2 weeks is enough? Isn't it? Right? For majority of kids, even the smart ones in your school, 2 weeks might not be enough to perfect something. They need more time, right? The syllabus is situated in a point in which they don't take that into consideration. And moreover, students just put too much confidence and hope in the system, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times to be like, oh, well, if the teacher tells us we only have to learn this now, we'll just learn it now.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, this is not going to be exam. Well, I'll just do the homework later. Not realizing that for you to perfect that subject, you might have need 5 weeks or 10 weeks.
Yeah.
But you only have a 2 week grace period to get better at it. And that's why a lot of people have to prioritize.
Yeah.
And especially in year 12, year 11, maybe you'll be like, oh, I can spend more time on it. In year 12, you have 5 subjects. How are you going to do it?
You have no
Isn't
time.
it?
I'm genuinely like, I don't understand how people do it like normally. Like, I would actually like lose my mind. Like, I'm so glad I had like time for that, especially for maths, right? Maths takes so much time to like perfect and do everything. Yeah. I think I lost faith in the school system and the syllabus. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like how this whole thing works is you need someone to see your potential and to give you advice, then push you to a point where you didn't think that you can get to. Yeah. And once you build that momentum, it will, you know what I mean? It will self-sustain that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. How was year 12? What was your year 12 year? Because I feel like the general consensus is, right, people are stressed, people have anxiety, people are burnt out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just have so much tutoring or so much work to do. But I didn't feel like I got that vibe from you. You know what I mean? I mean, in certain aspects, like when you did really bad in the UCAT, right? But we'll get to that part, okay? But overall, I don't feel like that was the vibe that I got from you, right? How was your year 12 experience?
It was a lot of work, right? A lot of pressure, everything. But I don't think I ever felt an experience where I felt like stressed or burnt out because I was always ahead. There was nothing missing, right? It was always just little pieces I had to fix, right? And I understand that I feel like burnout comes from a place where you don't know content and you stress because you need to fill those gaps, right? And then when you don't fill those gaps and the marks drop, you start stressing even more. And I feel like burnout is a result of like reverse momentum. That's like my perspective on burnout. When you put in all this hard work, you drop the marks and then you try your hardest and like they still drop. You're just constantly trying to catch up with those deadlines. Yeah. I feel like that's when burnout happens.
Yeah, right. But if you're always ahead of schedule, that's not going to be a thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think like I was able to pace myself a lot. Like especially for English. English was the one thing that was like my biggest like weakness. Because everything else was like ahead, right? I knew the terms content. I put in like straight 5 weeks for English. Like 5 weeks before the exams, I started putting in work. Yeah. You know, collecting, making my essays, you know, whatever, right? Like getting articles. But I had like 5 weeks to do my English, where most people wouldn't have that luxury because they have 6 other subjects to do.
Yeah, right. And just to let the audience know, you did do tutoring at ProEd for maths in year 11, physics and chem in year 11 as well. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you feel like the pro-ed system was able to pace that content for you in a way that resulted in not having to reach the meet those deadlines and having a comfortable buffer to kind of prepare for exams and whatnot? And do you reckon setting a course that's well thought out for the students makes a big difference? Not too far ahead, not too, you know what I mean, close to, but enough time to kind of perfect and learn it at a comfortable pace. So where when it is time to perform on that content that you had enough time. Do you reckon that pro-ed courses was able to help you in that aspect?
I think, I can't speak for all students, but for me, I think the pro-ed course was generally, it was paced perfectly, right? I was able to keep up with the content every week, but I was still ahead. I was like a term ahead for every single subject, right? Okay. So when school exams came around, it was just a matter of just revising, you know, filling in those little gaps. But I think the pacing genuinely worked out really, really well for me. It was perfect for how I studied.
Yeah. But a lot of students, they'll say, Aryan, if you study a term ahead, you just forget content. And then I have to relearn it again. What's your comment, what's your remark to that?
I think obviously there's going to be gaps in your knowledge, but the foundation should always be there. I don't think you should ever forget the actual foundation behind the ideas, which is why I always try not to memorize information. The way I study, especially for sciences, is I learn the foundations, and in my head there's kind of a web, because all the subjects are connected to each other in some way or another, right? And I try and connect those ideas. And if you genuinely build a very strong foundation when you learn it first, right, and you don't leave it for later to learn later, stop memorizing information as just information, and it just sticks with you, right? Because I feel like a lot of people just memorize, you know, certain definitions or ideas, and you definitely forget those, right? That memory won't last, right? But obviously there's little niche bits that you need to come back to, and what I do before my exams is I would write out the entire topic's notes. I just sit down for straight 6 hours. Not even applying to questions. Just because just so I know that I know everything again.
Right. So you're just basically writing a book.
Genuinely.
Something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, why are you doing this? This is useless. But I don't know why. It worked really well for me. Right? I'll just write out absolutely everything.
That you know.
I'll write the pro-ed books, certain lines that I need to memorize, everything. I'd write it all out. Because there is memorization as well. That's what you need to come back to.
Okay. So the ideas are what you have to learn really well, put a lot of emphasis in, making sure that you get everything. And then the technicalities and the small exam techniques and small niche questions or hard questions or whatnot, you can focus on those leading up to the exam, is what you're saying, right? Because you don't have time to understand the content, practice the content, and do those questions unless you memorize everything. You don't really get to the nitty gritty. But getting down to the nitty gritty and making sure your foundation is good takes time, isn't it? And that's why you need to learn ahead, isn't it? I think that's good advice. Tell me some lowlights. What do you feel like through your journey from year 7 to year 12? If you can pinpoint some things, I know you said that you weren't very confident from 7 to 10 because you know what I mean? But I still feel like even though you didn't get the best marks, right? And you didn't feel like you were the smartest person, but overall you felt okay, or you didn't feel that bad. Or are there any other instances where you really kind of doubted yourself and you doubted whether you can do it, and you were very close to kind of losing motivation and not putting in the work anymore?
I think either late year 9 or mid year 10, my marks were absolute mess. It was a slow downward progression from year 7, but I think year 9 was the proper lowest, late year 9, and I was damn, I was losing hope. Because in every exam, my goal to reach, right, it would start off with I want to get 90 plus, and then as the years went on, it went to 80 plus, 70 plus. I want to go above average. And I think mid year 9 or mid year 10 or late year 9 was when it was its absolute lowest.
How did you feel at that time, and what kept you going? What kept you positive and make the right decisions rather than I'm just gonna give up?
I definitely it was rough. I was close to I was it's not for me, you know what I mean? It's this isn't for me, you know, study's not for me. But I think in year 10, right, late year 10, I think one of the other big milestones that pushed me forward to study was the year 10 science final. And I think I'm someone who's good with a lot of content. Right? For I'd always do the best in the yearlies. And I remember that year 10 science final, right? I spent 3 weeks going over every single thing. I wrote notes on big A4 pages and plastered over my walls. I looked through everything. And that was the first exam where I was top marks.
So you come first or something?
Not first, but in the higher top 5, top 6.
Right.
And I was oh. okay.
Yeah.
Like I was terrible at sciences before, like
Yeah.
absolutely terrible.
Yeah. And was that the first time you did something like that? Like wrote it all out and posted on the board?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's just like the advice you're giving to students is like keep trying different things, right?
yeah,
Try
definitely.
things that work for you,
Yeah.
isn't it? Yeah.
And that's one method that worked, and I still did up till the HSC.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when there's a big exam coming up, write out all the information and put it up and then just kind of study it. Is that what I'm saying? Like look through it.
Yeah, in the HSC, I had like all 4 of my walls were just covered in notes.
Okay.
From just chem and phys. They were just chem and phys notes.
Right. That's like the crazy people on those TV shows.
Yeah, straight up.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Those crazy people on those TV shows.
Yeah. It was actually, it looked
and then
crazy.
some sort of burn a dead body on the ground and it's like these symbols on the walls. Yeah.
Yeah, when people came to my house, they'd question me. They'd give me like side eyes.
Okay, that's interesting. How about in year 12? Were there any was it a roller coaster or was it just kind of like smooth sailing throughout the entire thing?
I think like the third exam was a bit rough. I'm not sure exactly what my mentor was at that point. I think there was a lot of things outside of just studies. I think socially in school it was a bit rough as well. There were like, a few social issues.
Yeah.
Right? And I think my mentor was quite low,
Okay.
and then my marks reflected that.
Okay.
Knowing how important it was, right?
Yeah.
I knew that I had to like bounce back quickly, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I just kind of like forgot about that year completely, like that term, that like
Okay.
period completely.
Yeah, right.
Going into like term 4, which is trials.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't afford to like sulk over that.
Okay, cool. From my memory, of your story, there were two kind of like specific low points in year 12 for you. You did mention this earlier before, that English wasn't your best subject, right? What about English that, unlike math and physics and chem, that sciences, that it was the snowball effect. You just kept getting better and better and better and better. What was it about English that you reckon like you could put the same amount of energy and same amount of attention to the subject, but the effect wasn't the same?
Yeah.
And how do you feel that eventually changed?
For English, for me in particular, the turn on the time I put to study was like really, really bad. That's why I ended up putting like 5 weeks in. Because like the amount of time I studied, if I studied the exact same as math science, the marks were terrible.
Okay.
Right? And also I had a tutor. He was good, right? He gave me like really, really strong foundations.
Right.
But he didn't know the technicalities of the HSC.
Right.
Especially in Balcombe Hills, there are very specific things that they prefer. Right. And I think I was very lucky to have Kabir as my tutor.
Yeah.
An ex-Balcombe student, straight out of Balcombe.
Yeah.
Right. And he's someone who learned it himself as well. He learned it the hard way.
Yeah.
Right. And having someone like that to guide me was really useful. Because for the first time, I was like understanding these like technical aspects, right, which I never knew before.
Okay.
And I think that's what English is. You need to learn the technicalities.
Yeah.
You can't just be like good at English. There's like specific things that are specific to HSC English in particular. Like HSC English essays might not necessarily be a good essay, but it's good for HSC. Right? It's very specific.
Okay.
And knowing someone who knows those specifics is very important.
Can you give us an example of something that you didn't do before and then you did it and your marks just went up?
Like, for example, my old tutor, right? He does essays in, uni and stuff, right? He like give a lot of importance to, have like 2, 3, 4 sentences on like talking like analyzing quotes. Don't have too many quotes, right? Put in like a solid like 2, 3 lines of like analysis in each one, right? And like, so I'd have like 3 quotes and like 3 paragraphs, like the bare minimum. And I'd just like have long sentences just rambling, right?
Yeah.
They were very shallow evidence.
Very generic feedback.
Yeah. But apparently that works well when you like go into uni, because like you definitely need to put more analysis per like quote, right? But I go to Kabir, right? And I see that his analysis is like literally like half a sentence or like a sentence max. And it's full of like really complicated words, which my old tutor was like, don't complicate it, right? Keep it simple, keep it straightforward.
Okay.
Make sure that they understand exactly what you're saying. But going into HC English, I'm learning that like all these like convoluted sounding sentences with like these crazy words do better.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Let's kind of pivot a little bit. The UCAT. That was something.
It's brutal.
That was not a great experience for you, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and what was that all like for you?
I think I went into the UCAT with the wrong mindset, because I think a lot of people also fed this into me and it wasn't healthy. People were like, oh, you're smart, you'll do good, you know what I mean? Like you don't need to study that hard, right? People are like, oh, it's just like an IQ test pretty much, like you're already smarter than these kids, right? You'll be fine, you don't need to put in the work, right? It's like some people don't study and they do well, right? And I think it kind of fed the wrong mindset into me where I wasn't putting in enough work. Because in the back of my head, I was like, you know what? Yeah, it should be fine, right? It's like, I'm not trying to get the best mark. I just need to cross this threshold, right? But like, what I didn't understand then was how much effort like people were putting in. And like, it's just a completely different thing to HSC. It's like a whole different thing. Like I'm starting from zero. I'm starting from scratch.
Right.
And like, that just didn't go into my mind. So going back, like if I knew how it was, I would have put in so much more work.
Yeah.
And I would have grinded so much harder. And it was how I felt in like year 8, year 9, where I was praying to get that 70. Right? It's like you never get that mark. You always get less, right? If you pray for the 100, you get the 95 or something, right?
Yeah.
You pray for the 70, you get lower.
Yeah.
I was praying for the benchmark.
Yeah.
So
and you got lower. Yeah, right. One also aspect of that is the competition is getting way fiercer.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
definitely.
Like, for example, maybe just like 2 or 3 years ago, the mark that you got might have been maybe in the considerations.
Yeah.
But now that everyone's getting so good marks for the UK, right? That they don't even look at your mark, isn't it?
I got 4 rejections on that day.
Yeah, right.
Didn't even do the HSC.
Yeah.
All the unis in Sydney are gone.
But then at the same time, not all hope was lost, right? Because I remember you coming to me and be like, David, what do I need to get in the trials now? What do I need in terms of ranks? What do I need in terms of marks for each one of my subjects? Because the only way that I'm going to get into med now is you said 9.95.
Yeah.
What is it going to take? I remember I told you, your rank for math, no problem. Even if you fumble a little bit, it's going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Phys and Chem, as long as you're pretty stable in terms of your ranks and marks, you should be fine. But English was a bit of a...
Yeah.
It was still a bit of a grey area. I know you made progress.
Yeah.
I know you were climbing the ranks.
Yeah.
But this was right, I would think this was like a month before the trials or something.
Yeah.
And it was not in a comfortable state, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, if I was to recommend you to do something, I would recommend you to do English, and I need you to get this mark or this rank. I remember I told you specifically what you need to do. What was that process of trying to get that?
Yeah, I remember hearing that. And like, there's a difference between wanting a 99.95 for like ego purposes, right? You know, I'm the best in to say, whatever. Which is kind of the mindset I had. It wasn't really a proper goal, right? It was like, hey, you know what? Like, I could, if I put in a bit more work, like it could happen. It would be nice. You know? But like, it was a completely different like mindset when it was like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only thing I have now.
Yeah.
So I remember like, I talked to you, figured out what I needed to do. I started like thinking much more methodically about everything. Like much more, I started calculating my ranks, what marks I need to get. It was like just complete. It was like almost an obsession with like everything. Like everything needs to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, you can't like stuff up anywhere. And then that day when I realized I needed like improve at English, right? I messaged Kabir. I was like, hey, this is my situation I'm in, right? I need all the help I can get to get this mark for English. Right? And then I sent absolutely everything to him, cross-checked everything, make sure it was up to his standards. And I just put in so much work. I focused so hard on English just to get that single rank up.
Tell me what it takes, the specifics, do you know what I'm saying? It's not just, I'm going to wake up today, I'm going to work harder.
Yeah.
What was it specifically that you're doing? How methodical was it, really?
Yeah. For English, like I had like a step. For every single essay, I had like this like process of steps, right? First, what I'd do is I'd gather a bunch of critic articles. Like every article I could find that was like free. And I'd just read through them for like hours, right? I'd pick out certain sentences that I thought flowed really nicely and conveyed my point much better than I could possibly convey it.
Yeah.
And I'd have a doc full of all of these quotes, right? Next, I'd go through all the literature, seeing any good analysis, right? Copying down good analysis, not to steal the words, but just the ideas, right? Because literature, the wording's not good. Not for like the standard you need to get those high marks.
For sure.
And I'd have my doc of quotes, I'd have my doc of analysis from critics, everything. I watched tons of videos.
Yeah.
So I genuinely understand the text I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know a lot of people, they don't really understand what they read. They don't even read it.
So,
Like, so many people don't even read.
They just go, let me see an example. Let me see a summary, a synopsis. Oh, this is what it's about. I'm an expert at this now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, some people didn't even pick up their book.
Okay.
But yeah, like it was like.
But you genuinely became an expert.
Yeah.
Right? In that text.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Like I made sure I was up to that standard before I even started writing anything. Then what I'd do is I'd start the slow process, right? I got my quote and I'd write analysis and I'll just keep rewriting, cutting it down, making it better, finding those words that fit in. I remember in ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT was amazing.
Yeah.
I have a word, right? Yeah. And I'd be like, hey, give me a sophisticated synonyms of this word.
Yeah.
And it gave me a list of 20 and I'd read through it, I'm like, oh, this is a good one.
Okay, yeah.
Right? And I just swap those words in constantly.
Yeah,
but I'd be like, hey, can you rewrite this but like more sophisticated?
Yeah. And for the audience, Aryan is not going, can you write this for me? No. He is using ChatGPT to speed up the time to get the word that he wanted. Yeah. Not what ChatGPT wanted, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what the English essay is about. Yeah. English essay is to demonstrate your knowledge and your passion and your understanding of the text. Yeah. Right? It's not writing an essay. That's not what it's about, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, ChatGPT would never give you like that standard over 20. Nah. Like ever. It couldn't. But like getting those synonyms, that helps so much. I'd save so much time. And it'd make everything flow so much smoother. So I have my quotes, right? Also for quotes, I'd steal quotes that critics use and then steal their analysis for it because they have analysis for it as well.
Yeah.
And a technique I learned from Kabir was like these like quote stacking.
Yeah.
I'd have multiple quotes, I'd cut them, and then I'd stack techniques as well.
Yeah, right.
Right? Just so I can have more in every single sentence, right?
Okay.
I made sure that every sentence was as much as I could possibly put into it without being too convoluted, too long. So it was like just a perfect sentence. And then I repeat that process for every sentence.
Yeah.
Right? And then I make my, like, I have my thesis as well. I do the same energy, you know, make sure everything's perfect. Right? And then once I finish this entire essay, I'd hand it to Kabir. And then Kabir would be like, hey, this doesn't sound right, you know, maybe change this up, you can swap these words, maybe like use this, and then fix it all, right? Change some stuff, then send it back to Kabir. And then I just repeat that process until Kabir would give me the green light, I'd be like, this is good. This is the best essay you can make.
Okay.
And I'd be like, done. That's an essay done.
Yeah.
But it's a long process. It takes so long.
Yeah, patience is important, isn't it? Yeah. Tell me about you going into the HSC. What was your emotions then? Were you nervous? Were you excited? Were you just like, I'm ready? That's, I think, for someone to get 9.95 and arguably ace their exams, they need to be in a certain mindset, a certain emotional state, right?
Yeah.
What was your emotional state?
I think one thing especially I learned from the UCAT is I was never ever confident about an exam, ever. Right? I never felt like I was ready. I was always prepared for the absolute worst. I remember especially like there was this one chem exam, I think it was like second term or something, right?
Okay.
I left out, I skipped the question, and like I stuffed up one of my like I wrote like a 5 mark in 3 minutes, right?
Okay.
And I felt so bad, right? I left, I was distressed, and everyone was like, oh, that was the best exam I ever did. Forget. But I remember when the marks came back, I still topped because everything else was in the standard of like full marks. The only marks I lost were those 2 areas.
Okay.
But like the point is, right? It's like every single exam I made sure I wasn't going in confident, right? Because I feel like confidence just gets you ready for like failure, right? Like it just leads to disappointment, right? I was always ready for the worst. So whenever my marks come out, I'd always be like surprised. Like every single mistake would like stick in my mind and everything, right?
Yeah.
But like I think it's important to go in cautiously. I think overconfidence would be the worst thing for me personally.
Okay.
Going in cautiously, I made sure I looked through every single piece of writing I wrote, made sure I added everything I had, made sure that every mark I could possibly get, like I had something down.
Yeah.
But I think it was never nervousness. I'd go in like almost excited in a sense, right? I'd be nervous, right? But I'd tell myself that it was excitement. That's like a strategy I use because I did a lot of like athletics.
It's
right?
adrenaline.
Yeah. Because I did a lot of athletics, and oh my god, the days before the events, I was stressed. I'd never get sleep. I think that level of stress, I didn't even hit in the HSC. Like
not even the English exam.
Not even the English exam. The day before like a state comp, I was genuinely crashing out. And I think I learned a lot about how to handle stress from that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But actually, that kind of anxiousness, excitement, or however you want to call it, makes you alert.
Yeah.
I think the alertness is very important. You don't want to go into the exam thinking you already know what the questions are, because then you'll miss the key information that you need to look at, you need to use to answer the questions.
Yeah. I think one thing that was good that I did before every single one of my HSC exams, and even coming up to HSC before like trials and everything, is I used to shoot basketball a lot.
Okay.
Right? Every single time before an exam, an hour before, I'd like shoot outside.
Okay.
Because it was the only time I had genuine mental clarity. And my thoughts were genuinely like streamlined. Like everything was like clicking, right? And I'd just go through all my topics. I'd be like, hey, you know, like this subject in maths is not my best. You know, this topic is lacking. I need to put a bit more work. Like after this basketball session, I'm going to work on this part of this English thing. Right? And I'd get my notes app up and I'd write down what I'm thinking. Yeah, and it's just a practice I started. And then before every single HSC exam, I'd shoot for about an hour. I remember one time in particular, coming back to English, it was Mod A, and every single like Mod A task I did, I kept getting caught up in one of my arguments because my thesis just did not make sense at all. Right? And I remember it was like 4 days before Mod A was coming up, and I was like, how the hell do I make this make sense? And I was just shooting there for hours. I was just going through the ideas, like the genuine, like the core of the ideas, right? Everything Kabir told me about this topic. And then as I was thinking, it finally clicked. I was like, wait, I can word it this specific way. And I remember I got the phone up, I messaged Kabir, I was like, wait, I think I had an epiphany. I know how to word this idea. And I sent it to him, and he was like, yeah, it just actually smooths much better. It makes sense. It links to because like Mod A is about comparing between text, and like the specific comparison wasn't clear enough. And I was like, wait, this actually makes sense now.
So that again emphasizes the focus of, you know, taking breaks in the sense that kind of changing the rhythm, isn't it? Yeah. What is your overall kind of relationship then with extracurriculars while you were doing studies? In particular, the year 11, year 12.
So I was very big into athletics, right? From like year 8. I was like repping state. So I put a lot of time and effort into it. And I think the good thing that came out of that is I learned about discipline and stress management, right? In high pressure scenarios, how to like calm myself, which later translated very well into like year 11 and 12 with studies.
Yeah.
But the problem was athletics in itself, because it's an individual sport, I got the same vibe as I did from HSC, right? There's like some kid could be working better than you, right? It's all up to you by yourself, right?
Yeah.
You cannot slack on the day. You need to put in everything you got, and you're competing directly with someone else, right? So the issue was year 11, I just could not balance that. I tried in year 11 my best to put the work in for athletics, and like people are also like hitting puberty now, right?
Okay.
They're like these like genuine like athletic freaks coming out of nowhere, right? And like the competition is getting so hard. I have to put like so much more work in. So that was one of the big sacrifices I did have to make, right? Doesn't mean I like stopped physical activity or extracurriculars completely, but year 11, end of year 11, I completely cut off athletics.
Okay.
Right? I just could not balance it.
Athletics.
Competitive, yeah, because that competitiveness, it just takes too much time, and it's just time I can't afford. Right? It was one or the other, and athletics had to go. Right? And so instead, that's when I started picking up gym and basketball.
Okay.
They weren't competitive. They weren't like, I didn't need to put like too much time into it. Just like simply like an hour a day, right? An hour of gym, an hour of basketball, right, a day. That was enough for me, right? It kept me physically fit, right? And another thing is, especially with gym, whenever I was feeling sluggish, because there was always those days, right? There's always those days you wake up, you don't want to study, right? I was feeling sluggish, tired. It was only after gym that like my mindset came back.
Okay.
I'd go to gym, and I'd focus on like self-improvement, and then putting like, it was like the catalyst to switch me into that self-improvement mindset. And then doing that productive thing made me want to do more productive things. So it made me want to study.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, maybe to end the day at night, I'd just shoot a bit of basketball, like kind of like consolidate everything I learned that day. You know, what was lacking, what I can.
And hit epiphanies.
Hit
right?
epiphanies, yeah,
okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Just to kind of close off our conversation then. If you were to give one bit of advice to the students that are still kind of in their journey, right? From year 7 to year 12 and to sit the HSC. What do you feel like was the most important thing that you learned that you feel like another student watching this episode should consider?
I think the main thing is just figure out how you study, like the way that works for you the best, right? Because once you find a study technique that correlates with the amount of effort you put in, right? Because there are a lot of techniques you do, you put a lot of effort in, the return's just not good, right? When you find that certain technique that like has good return for the amount of work you put in, you need to hold on to that and like use it in all the subjects. And then once your marks start climbing a little bit, even if your marks jump by, even if your ranks jump by like 5, 2, 5, whatever, you need to hold on to that like momentum. You can't get comfortable. Even if you're like rank 1, you can't get comfortable. You need to keep pushing. I think getting comfortable with where you are is really bad because you're gonna get overtaken.
I think that's really good that your mindset is always like, even though you can appreciate what you've accomplished, but you know that, hey, this is short-lived because there's some kid at home that's working really hard. He's trying to catch up to me right now. Isn't it? Yeah, true. At the same time, I feel like this is what I've been telling my students because sometimes they don't know what the method is that suits them. So they do need someone with experience, someone that's seen a lot of journeys, a lot of you know what I mean, kids flourish and do well in the HSC to give them the right advice, the things that they need to hear. Like, it's like you finding Kabir. It doesn't matter how hard you would have worked. You couldn't have done it alone. You had the discipline. You had the drive and the hunger, right? But you didn't have the person at that time to tell you how to channel that. And through that, you came top 5 in your exam. People are like astounded. People think we're some sort of miracle worker. But that was just a testament of you having clarity. Like, hey, I need to find someone that can unlock this potential because right now I'm lost. I don't know what it is.
I remember. It was like I went to a trial lesson. I still had my old tutor. This tutor, mind you, is like from year 4. Year 4 to year 11. I have not left this guy. Right? He was almost like family to us at that point. And I remember I went into that Kabir's class, that trial class, and I listened to how he talked. And I knew that he knew how the HSC worked. Right? And I remember going home telling my parents, and like probably like the saddest decision I had to make was I had to cut off that tutor. But it had to be done. It had to be done.
You needed to find the right situation, the right mentor to help you in your situation. Hey, not saying that your old tutor didn't help you.
No,
he would have helped you, right? But it's the thing is, like, there's different phases. Like, Michael Jordan's coach can't help a 5-year-old in basketball because the stuff that they know is too advanced. So in that situation, you need someone that can help you in that moment. But once you get to that stage where you need the person at the next level to help you, there's no hard feelings. It's just you've brought them to that place. I'm happy. I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
Now I need to lock in and I need to get to the next level. And there's someone that's going to be able to do that for me, isn't it?
Yeah,
for sure. All right. Well, thanks for coming today, Aryan. I think I really enjoyed this. I learned a lot from you today in terms of like your story and your situation, because I didn't know a lot of that stuff. And I think the students can take a lot away from this and find their own way. They don't. They shouldn't be following exactly what you're doing, but the ideas is what they need to take into consideration. That will put them in a spot to be able to get 9.95 as well.